So Pokemon cards are in a bit of a weird spot right now. They went from being really hard to find in 2021 and 2022 to being really easy to find in 23 and the start of 24 to being almost impossible to find again here now in 2025. You just go into any store, you won't see Pokemon cards on the shelves like you should. You try to pre-order something new online and it's instantly botted and then relisted on eBay for 2, 3, 4, 5 times the price. And it just doesn't seem like there's any Pokemon cards when there should be, when Pokemon is reaching basically peak popularity. It's no coincidence that this is all happening during the release of TCG Pocket and that combo at the end of 2024 of TCG Pocket's release, Surging Sparks right after, the set with Pikachu on the front, followed up with Prismatic Evolutions dropping in just a few days now, the most anticipated set potentially of all time, featuring all those evolutions in it. It really tickles the Gen 1 nostalgic balls that we all have, but it's too easy to just say, hey, Pokemon's popular again. They like opening up digital packs. They want to open up physical packs. No, popularity is too easy of a target. This is a bigger problem, multifaceted with a lot of different factors at play, and they combine to create an issue that the Pokemon card collecting scene has never seen before. As the Earth has a core, so too does our problem. So we've got to start at probably the easiest scapegoat of all time, flippers and scalpers. That's it. That's the video. Thanks so much for watching. Like and subscribe. If you thought it was easy to blame the popularity of Pokemon, it's even easier to blame flippers and scalpers because these types of people have very few redeemable qualities. Flippers are the modern version of scalpers. Scalpers have been around for as long as there have been scarce commodities. We call them flippers because they buy stuff quickly and they flip it quickly. I guess the biggest issue with the modern day flipper is to sell stuff as quickly as they do. Oftentimes they masquerade as a fan of Pokemon. You know, traditionally flippers and scalpers don't care about whatever they're selling. They're trend chasers. If you can make them money, they'll buy it and they'll sell it. But it's easier to make money and flip in Pokemon if you are a Pokemon card fan. So like a chameleon, they will pretend to like Pokemon, and that's easy to do because at some point or another, everybody's been exposed to Pokemon, whether it's the cards, the games, or the anime. The issue though with doing this is that it introduces an inorganic rise in the price of collectibles. Collectors know that their collection will go up in value over time. It's a fundamental part of collecting things. And oftentimes collectors too will flip and sell parts of their collection to get closer to cards that they ordinarily can't obtain. That's what we call grail chasing. But I wouldn't confuse that concept with being a part of this big problem that we have right now with Pokemon cards, because that's a natural rise in growth. That inorganic rise in growth created by flippers can cause people to lose interest. You know, if it's too hard to get something and you want to, it can turn you off entirely, and a potential new fan now closes the door on the Pokemon card space. But beyond flippers just having the product that people want at the time, there's got to be a better reason for why flippers continue to exist in this space. And the easy answer to that is Pokemon card investors. Last time I spoke about this topic, I made a lot of 40-year-old men cry. So we're going to tread carefully here. Pokemon card investors treat Pokemon cards as a traditional asset like stock or cryptocurrency. Unlike flippers, they've got a long-term plan. So they're not looking to make a quick buck in the short term. They're trying to sell this stuff in 5, 10, 15, 20 years. They can be casual. So there's something that they do on the side, you know, buy one for me and buy one to keep, or they can be hardcore. And it's the hardcore investors that are the bigger problem here. Pokemon card investors are only doing it for the money, and that is the cold, hard truth. If you're investing in Pokemon cards, you're trying to make money, whether it's now or later. And if you like the thing that you're investing in, surely you could take a step back and say, hey, maybe what I'm doing here isn't actually helping the space, helping the thing that I like. It's actively ruining it and I shouldn't do it. But if you don't, then you value money and greed above all of those other things. They have an everything will go up mentality, and so they buy everything that they possibly can. And investors who have a lot of money, the type of investor that we'd call a whale, can cause real big shifts in the Pokemon card space. All right, so there's faceless people out there that are probably investing in Pokemon cards the same way that people invested in them 20, 25 years ago. And those guys, they made a bucket load of money. So what's the issue with investors doing the same thing now? And why are investors causing flippers and scalpers to be as rampant as they are? The answer is very simple. These days, unlike 20, 25 years ago, we have investor YouTubers. These are people that use social media to continue to perpetuate that idea that you can invest in Pokemon cards. The more views that these types of videos get, the more people come into the Pokemon card investing space, continuing to prop up the positions that those investor YouTubers already have. But it has a second benefit, because the more viewers and subscribers you get, the more views you get on your video, the more money that you will earn from content creation. So investor YouTubers use both of these things to continue to solidify their position. In a way, it's a little bit of a pyramid scheme, and I've caught flack for saying that in the past, but bear with me. Let's say you start doing this 5 or 10 years ago, and then somebody new watches your channel and they want to get into Pokemon card investing, but they want to buy something from 5 or 10 years ago. Surprise, surprise, you've already got it, and you're continuing to say how much it's worth. And so you sell it to them, and now they are holding the bag. You've realized your profit. Now it's up to them to hope that it goes up in value in the future. And for a lot of them, that is their plan, to sell them to the kids of now in 15, 20, 25 years when this stuff is scarce and they've got more money. And investors with a huge amount of capital, those whales, can very quickly amass a large amount of a specific set and control the supply of it, trickling it through into the Pokemon card space. This stuff is an echo chamber. If you type in Pokemon card investing in YouTube, you're gonna see a bunch of videos and you're gonna see a bunch of comments on them, all patting each other on the back. Whether they'll admit it or not, investor YouTubers are a large reason as to why flipper and scalper culture is so rampant in the Pokemon card space. Just look at the views, look at the sub counts, and look at the comments. It's a proof of concept. It's a case study. It's a blueprint for flippers and scalpers that says, hey, no matter what, if you buy this thing that people want now, you can sell it in the short term, or you can hold on to it and there'll be somebody that will want to buy it later. But why do investors thrive? Why do investor YouTubers continue to grow on platforms like YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram? Well, the answer to that one is influencer culture. Everybody wants to be a YouTuber for some reason. This video has taken me 3 days and 4 attempts. But if you do it right, it can make a lot of money. And investor YouTubers like the fact that they can make money talking about their investment. It's a 2 for 1. You talk about it, you get more people interested in it, the value of that thing goes up because more money flows into the space. And as your views and sub count goes up, so too does your ad revenue. And if you play your cards right, you can maybe diversify and become the influencer that you want to be, the influencers that you see in the space talking about Pokemon cards, opening Pokemon cards all the time, amassing 500,000 views in just a day, opening the newest sets. These days, you don't even need to like the thing. As long as you can sell it to your fans and do it convincingly enough, you will make money. So does that mean that every single person who makes Pokemon card related content is to blame? No. And I'm not just saying that because this is a Pokemon card content channel too. The Pokemon card and collectible card space has 2 types of influencers in it, and you could argue they actually invented the second. The first is the traditional creator. And this is a person that does it for the love of the game, whether they're taking their viewers on an exciting adventure with them, talking about the artwork and history behind the Pokemon cards, or they're a competitor teaching people how to play the trading card game. Whichever the case, they're doing it because they're passionate about it, and they've managed to turn that passion into a full-time career that earns them money. For others, it's a goal. They're passionate too, and they're trying to get to that position as well. But whichever the case, this type of creator really invokes positive change in the community, and they do it because they want to see it prosper. So where do the investor YouTubers land here? Are they doing it for the love of the game, or are they doing it for other reasons? I feel like based on everything we've spoken about here so far, you can figure that one out for yourself. But the second type of influencer, and the most problematic in the Pokemon card space, is the breaker. Breakers are people who live stream on platforms like TikTok, YouTube, or Twitch, who sell Pokemon card products to their viewers and then open them up for them live as part of an experience. They get the Pokemon cards either from the store, like Walmart, Costco, or Target, or they have a method of distribution, getting them at a wholesale cost. It's a business. This is a business model, and as any business should, they're trying to make money. They're trying to profit, and they do that by putting a markup on the cards that they sell, either because they're really hard to get and coveted at that point in time, or because they're selling the viewer the experience, the honor of opening up the cards for them. Ultimately, it's an exploitative business model because it preys on a multitude of human factors, but that doesn't necessarily mean that every breaker is evil. And that's because breakers fill a void. They provide a place for people to feel like they belong. Whether it's parasocial or not, there is a relationship between the streamer and the viewer. And for some people, they feel like they don't have anywhere to go. Breakers provide a space for them to feel comfortable, to feel like they belong. And hey, if they're selling some Pokemon cards at a slight markup along the way, is it really that bad? Especially considering some people can't get Pokemon cards in the countries that they live. There are a lot of creators that create normal videos, traditional types of content that also occasionally do breaking live streams. And so I wouldn't necessarily lump every breaker as an evil person, but there's way more bad apples in this space than good eggs. Specifically on platforms like Whatnot. This is a live streaming service where the streamer sells items in real time as an auction. So everybody viewing can bid on the item. And yeah, those bids might start at $1, but very often, more often than not, especially in this period, they sell for way more than the item traditionally would, because this type of business model exploits FOMO, hype, fear, crowd mentality, peer pressure, people spending way more than they ordinarily would if they were just flicking through eBay online. These types of platforms cause irreversible damage to collectibles, because for every time a product or a pack sells on a platform like Whatnot, it has the ability to set a new secondary market price. And this is particularly damaging when the products haven't even come out yet and ordinary customers can't go to stores and buy them themselves, when the supply is being backdoored and fed onto platforms like this weeks before they're supposed to. Influencer culture is here to stay, and there's not a whole lot we can really do about that. But because of influencer culture, we have investors trying to become influencers and using it as a stepping stone. And because we have investors showing flippers and scalpers every day that you can make money with Pokemon cards, well, we have flippers not only selling things online facelessly, but pretending to be fans and influencers themselves on platforms like Whatnot as breakers. And the whole thing is unique to Pokemon because the commodity that the niche is based on can become scarce very quickly. Look at other influencer-based niches like video games. Could you imagine if Elden Ring, one of the most critically acclaimed video games of all time, had only 3,000 physical copies worldwide and no digital release? The views on the live streams and the videos would be astronomical. All influencers thrive during a shortage because if you can't open it, you want to watch somebody else do it. And right now, it looks like we're in a shortage. Or are we? Reason 4, the supply of Pokemon cards. Now, we've already established that you can't walk into stores and buy this stuff off the shelf. Pre-ordering, basically impossible. And if you want any of it, you got to pay 2, 3, 4, 5 times retail. But that is directly at odds with the Pokemon Company International's own statements that they've made multiple times over the last few years, which is that they're actively trying to get product and print more of it on the shelves. Granted, it could take a little bit of time, got to give them a break, maybe say a year, the last time they made a statement like this. And that would get us ready for next week's Prismatic Evolutions. But that doesn't seem to be the case. Cut them some slack. Hey, maybe the supply really just can't meet the demand and Pokemon cards are just that popular right now. TCG Pocket is pretty cool, but why are stores having their allocations cut around the world? Why do products keep getting delayed, specifically in Australia? Why always me? And why do breakers have so much supply before this set has even officially come out? It doesn't make any sense, does it? It's actually insane. Why is there so much of it in this one guy's house? And why is he selling it for $26 a pack and getting away with it? Are we living in crazy land? Yeah, I might have my tinfoil hat on and I'm believing in a conspiracy theory, but it's really got me questioning whether the supply shortage is real or whether it is intentional, because everybody seems to be benefiting right now. Flippers and scalpers are making 2, 3, 4 times their profits. Investors are vindicated and their positions are strengthened, and influencer views are up and they're making a ton of money from Pokemon card content. On top of all of that, the Pokemon cards are selling. So the Pokemon Company International, they're making their money too. Everybody is happy, except for you. And that brings us to reason number 5, popularity and everything else. Because when Pokemon card interest is at an all-time high, this machine ticks. The flippers, they feast in the short term. The investors, they feast in the medium to long term. And the influencers feast during the wave, creating as much content as they can. Because when you can't open up Pokemon cards yourself, you want to see somebody else do it. And the cards keep selling no matter what. The only people that don't benefit when this is happening are the fans, people like you and me. I don't want to make this super dramatic, but it's the harsh truth. It's a twisted type of irony. When it's popular, you can't do it. And it has the ability to turn you off entirely. You know, there's only so many times you can whack a person in the face before they say, hey, stop whacking me in the face, please. So what are you meant to do? Stop liking Pokemon cards? Blame you? Blame me for being a Pokemon fan? No, that's ridiculous. I'm not gonna blame collectors for liking the thing that they like, but the reality of it is that when this happens, when it gets as popular as it does, this storm starts. So what are the solutions? Well, for a start, the Pokemon Company International absolutely have to plug that leak in their distribution line, because it's frankly inexcusable that a company that large in 2025 still has issues with product leaking early. Outside of that, I only really see two solutions to this. TPCI supply a whole bucket load of cards and it all goes to zero, or you just wait until people aren't interested anymore. Anything else is absolutely pointless. And that is why you can't buy Pokemon cards right now.